All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to That's Not Real Trek Watch Party Podcast. This is episode number 26. My name is Scotty, also known as EBC. Directly below me, the lovely Short and Sweet, also known as Veronica. And yeah, we're moving right along. We're into season 2 of Lower Decks. Um, any further thoughts that you've had before we dive right in?
Yeah, I'm ready to see what else the season's gonna hold.
Okay. Then we'll get started right away with the first two episodes of tonight's episode. Season 2, Episode 3, We'll Always Have Tom Paris, which is kind of a play on the TNG episode We'll Always Have Paris, but apparently Tom Paris is in this episode, maybe. And Episode 4, Mugato Gumato, which
Mm.
that's referencing a a creature that I think Kirk fought in the original series called the uh, Gum- Gumato. One of the anagrams of that word in this title is it was Mugato or something like that. So
Okay.
yeah, they're referencing that. It's a big white hairy creature that's like Chewie's brother, the
Oh,
Abominable
with the
Snowman.
like weird mouth,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, yeah.
yeah. So, all right, here we go. So right off the bat, what the hell? Shaxs is still alive. Um, yeah. What is that? What do you make of that?
I don't know, and I kind I kind of almost want them to not explain it and just
Really?
leave it. Like, I think it's funnier like that.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's the route they're going. Like, I mean, when you think of somebody dying in Star Trek and coming back to life, the probably the best example is Spock between Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 3. And I look at that and that whole scenario, and there's all kinds of mystique and surrounding it. Okay, so they actually introduced in that scenario the eternal Vulcan soul that can apparently transfer minds, and how many episodes have we had that reference then that the
Hmm.
fact that there's a Katra that can be transferred between different people, etc., etc. Um, so when I first saw that, I'm like, well, wait a second. First of all, didn't he fucking die? You know, what is he doing back here? And and then second of all, okay, so then later in the episode he started getting into the explanation, and while he's doing that, they actually lowered the volume of the guy speaking so that you couldn't hear the rest of the explanation. They just started it and then kind of left it, in shrouded in mystery, um, and they just kind of played it off to, well, there's just some things that you don't want to know. Your lower decks, you don't need to know the great mysteries of space. Um, so yeah, I thought that was pretty hilarious there. That yeah, and I agree with you that it's funnier not knowing. Because yeah, sure
Hmm.
they could explain it and they could say this and that, but no, they're leaving it like that, and you're just never going to know how Shaxs came back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose when they're when they're looking at this as like part of the storyline, okay, if you were watching, say, an episode of TNG, and all of a sudden, just Worf dies,
Hmm.
and then he comes back, and then they show that and you're wondering, boy, this miraculous thing, how did it happen? And then you're part and parcel with the story is the explanation for that, how he came back, because you're following the storyline of the main people at the top of the ship.
Hmm.
Captain Picard and all, the top 7 crew members in the ship. Because this is lower decks, we don't get to find out.
Right.
You know, so I thought that was kind of a cute play.
I like it.
Um, but are you happy he's back?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's a pretty funny character, and he uh like is a good foil for a lot of the more, like, I guess, less serious characters. Uh so I enjoy him being back. Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely an intense guy. Uh, constantly, like I would assume, Worf as the guy that can lose his temper probably the easiest. That's Shaxus, but like he's already lost his temper just by getting up, and he's like that all
Mhm.
the time. You know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's an and like everything. I mean, it seems like every single character they've got in here is picking up on not only the various trends in Star Trek characters, but like very specific things from other people. Like
Mhm.
clearly, what's his name? Ransom, Jack Ransom is at least in part Riker, and the type of courage and the type of confidence that Riker exudes. That's in Jack Ransom, but then all these other, that Ransom and all these other characters, they are times 10 over the top. So of
Mhm.
course, if Shaxis is kind of like a representation of Worf, it's Worf loses his temper, and you don't want to be a. He's almost like the embodiment of the Hulk. You won't like him when he's angry,
And he's
but
always angry.
he's already angry, and he's angry all the time. So you might as well just get used to him being angry at you, and possibly causing you bodily harm. So that was great. Um, and we had some more character development here with the Doctor, who I don't remember who plays that. Um, I have no idea. I had it and then I lost it, and oh well. But anyway, the Doctor, um, she, sh we haven't really developed any of this part. I mean, she's been there all along, but there was a specific character. I think I want to call her Morel, but that probably isn't right. In the original animated series from the 70s, that was I believe in the medical department, and was part of like either an assistant to the doctor or whatever. And and I believe that's where they were going. That they had introduced that character in the original animated series, and we never Dr. Taana, that's her name. We never saw that species again. This cat-like species. So in my mind, they did that specifically. They made the Doctor this cat species because they wanted to revisit that was introduced in the original animated series, but then never touched upon again. So I thought that was
Yeah.
kind of interesting. And we learn a little bit more about her and the character development. I thought for Tendi uh, was really nice in this episode. Taking
Hmm.
her and making her a little more confident, and now she's and in the last episode, girl time with what's her face, and she's becoming more confident, and more so than I think she has in the past. and
Yeah.
finding her place and finding what works for her specifically.
Mhm.
Um, so what did you see in any of that?
Yeah, I like that they put those two together, and they even, reference like, oh, we haven't really got to hang out, and it's funny because like a lot of times they'll talk about, oh, these two actors haven't been able to interact, so here we'll write this story so that they, can act together, have scenes together. So it was very deliberate, it seemed, on their part, to put them together in this situation, and it was nice to see them get to know each other more.
And I'm reminded a little bit of the relationship between Dr. Crusher and Nurse Ogawa.
Okay.
Because they had a nice episode in TNG that was Nurse Ogawa's kind of coming of age story, and how, she was dating one guy, and then he asked her to marry her, and it was kind of like a sidebar to that, the main storyline, but that was this developing or continuing relationship between the doctor and the nurse, and some of the
Hmm.
sidebars that you have between the medical staff, um,
Yeah.
especially seeing as like the lower medical staff, the lower decks in this case, is uh, kind of looking up to the chief medical officer as this person who has infinitely more knowledge and experience in the scenario, or in that area of the ship, and looking up to them as a superior officer and saying, yes, I recognize that you're going to be able to handle this much better than I ever could.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's where she gets off telling her to get the fuck out of the way. So um all right, so any other thoughts on those two episodes before we move on?
Oh, I just love that, they did the cats in the box. He just wanted the she just wanted the box. It's so spot on.
Yeah, that's great. um
Yeah.
yeah, I think yeah, well, oh, and you know what I forgot? This last episode here, there was I don't think it was the opening scene, but like they get down to the planet, and the Ferengi are rounding up these Mugatos, right?
Hmm.
I was instantly reminded of, I believe it was the second Jurassic Park movie, where they were trying to, or maybe it was one of the newer ones, The Lost World or something like that, where they're rounding up dinosaurs and putting them into cages. The
Hmm.
music, the night, the feel of the entire scene where they were rounding up these Mugatos and putting them into cages reminded me of that, to the point where I I got to imagine that it was at least, a reference or tribute to that. Um,
Yeah.
and they're tying it in then. So this is now another time that we're seeing a reference outside of Star Trek, if that's what that was. Um,
Hmm.
and then a little bit further along those same lines, the reintroduction of the Ferengi whips that we
Yeah.
hadn't seen since the one TNG episode back in the first season, The
Yeah.
Lost Empire. And yeah, that's an interesting weapon. And
Definitely.
I'm glad they brought that back for, at the very
Yeah.
least, the reference. If not, we're going to further the use of this thing.
Hmm.
So, all right, I think that's it. I think we have covered just about everything for those two episodes. Tom Paris, I don't know if they actually had what's his O'Neill
Oh yeah,
voice.
they did.
That was
Uh-huh.
him. Okay, it didn't.
Yep.
Just like Riker in those couple of episodes, Jonathan Frakes, it doesn't sound quite like them,
Yeah.
and I think
Doesn't.
it's because it's like studio recording versus whatever type of recording they're doing for soundstage,
Hmm.
and for whatever reason it just doesn't quite sound like them. So I was listening to them, I'm like, is that him?
Yeah.
You know.
I didn't know until the credits, and I was watching the end credits, and then
Okay.
they had it in there, so that was the only reason that I knew for sure that it was him,
Right.
because it doesn't sound like him at all.
No. No. But at least we're seeing, yes, they are continuing this theme of bringing in other actual Star Trek characters and the people that played them to reenact them in this. So
Hmm.
hopefully we'll see some more of that.
Yeah.
All right. The last two episodes for tonight is episode 5, an embarrassment of Duplers, and episode 6, The Spy Humongous. I don't recognize any references off of those titles right off the bat, but I'm sure we'll see more than enough. So here we go. Okay, there we go. Good stuff as always, man.
Yeah. I love it.
Um,
Armus at the end.
yeah, and I was waiting for the pull away scene. He as the camera goes up into the air.
Yeah.
I'm Armus. Yeah, I knew that was coming. Um, Good stuff. So Richard Kind as the Dupler in the first episode. Yeah, that was.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of Richard Kind, I think of two things. First, as Randy, the grasshopper, the funny half-witted brother in A Bug's Life, which I
Hmm.
mean, just fabulous comic relief on his part. And I also was a big fan of uh well, shit, I can't even remember the name of it. I'm so terrible with names. Um, Zach Braff, and
Oh.
yeah, the medical, the I can't even remember it. Yeah,
Scrubs. Scrubs.
Scrubs. Yes.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a couple of episodes that Richard Kind was in Scrubs where he played this
Hmm.
guy who ends up suing Dr. Cox, and yeah, or no, not Dr. Cox. What's his name? Black guy. Anyway, I mean,
Turk.
yeah, same thing. The comic relief. So it seems like a lot of the roles that Richard Kind has played over the years are just designed to do that because of his voice and his mannerisms and his speaking style. So that was a very welcome addition to that episode, I think.
Hmm.
And of course, riffing on Tribbles in more of a
Yeah.
humanoid form. Um, what were your thoughts on the whole scenario there?
Oh God, it was hilarious. Just like the inner monologue just being spoken by them all, like, oh no, I'm nervous because of this, and I'm anxious because of this, and then then them saying that is gonna make all the others
Right.
just duplicate too. It was chaos, and I loved it.
Yeah, like there's no way around them just continuing this pattern until the captain realizes, oh, we have to insult them and get them angry
Yeah.
in order to combat this. Yeah.
But in the little sound that they made when they duplicate the oh, it's just like constant in the background.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and I got to imagine, Richard Kind voicing all of them, they had to do how many takes?
Oh, probably
Probably,
hundreds.
yeah, probably close to hundreds with, and then overlapping them because at
Hmm.
at specific times they had like a whole bunch of these different lines going on at the same time, plus all of those sounds. Oh, um, yeah. So that was really cool the way they pulled that off. Um, and it almost kind of like reminded me of like Nutty Professor, where he played all of the members of the family in
Hmm.
various forms, and when you're playing seven different people in a movie and you have to go around, and all of it is done with the you know now he's in this position, and then we do another take, and now he's in this position in different makeup, um so that sort of thing where they've got the same person playing multiple roles, and in this case they're all the same role exactly, but multiple versions of that, and it just keeps getting worse. So uh, yeah, I thought that was really cool how they did that.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And we have seen, um, in the short treks, the previously in our podcast here, the comic relief being added with the tribbles, with I think it was Edward or
Hmm.
whatever his name was, and yeah, so clearly they could take that whole theme with the tribbles, and because there was quite a bit of like little spurts of comedy built into the original TOS episode, more troubles, more or the trouble with tribbles, and it seems like they're taking that path and just applying it to anything that kind of deals with that same scenario.
Hmm.
So yeah, really cool. And yeah, this last episode seemed to be more of like more character building, and more kind of like advancing the storyline. We've actually seen the Pakleds now in 3 or 4 episodes, and
Yeah.
they keep building on this theme, and actually advancing a canon story where
Hmm.
Captain Freeman is pursuing a peace agreement with the Pakleds, and finds out that they're just as stupid as ever, and yeah, we're not going to get very far with these people.
No,
I
it's gonna
got
take a while.
yeah. I mean, even from the first TNG episode that introduced the Pakleds, how in the world did they get as far as they have? Like, there's no way they can even begin to comprehend the technology behind warp design. So, you know, I get it,
Your luck.
but yeah, yeah. With as much shit as goes wrong on the Enterprise, or on any of these other ships, um, why isn't that shit going wrong on the Pakled ships? To the
Right.
point where there's a warp core breach or something like that.
Hmm.
And maybe there is, and we're just not hearing about it. But yeah, that was weird as hell. Uh, to the point where I'm now hoping that they've pretty much wrapped up the Packlet. It's great for comedy value and all that, but I mean, spending 2-3 episodes now with that storyline. Okay, so you've uncovered a Packlet plot to put a bomb or something on the earth. All right, now let's move on from that storyline. That
Yeah.
that that has fulfilled it. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, and there's only so much that you can do it, I think, with that storyline, and using it for the comedy and all that. Yes, the Packlet are stupid. Okay, great, and you did that now, and we've explored it, and maybe that's enough.
Yeah. Hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see what they do. But yeah, the addition of Armus at the end, uh, kudos to that, and very well done. I was wondering if maybe that might be brought in, because they left it wide open at
Oh
the
yeah.
end of the TNG episode. I mean, aside from maybe putting a warning a
Hmm.
buoy in the vicinity of the planet that Armus lives on,
Yeah.
what else are they going to be able to do?
Right. It's
So
charted in the star charts, I'm sure,
yeah,
but yeah, that's about
yeah.
it. The boy and the
don't go near the planet. That's, you know,
Right, and just stay away.
yeah. There's nothing more you can really do. But I mean, they left it wide open. You know, we never heard another thing about Armis, and
Hmm.
interestingly enough, maybe we never will again after this. You know, it was just maybe
Yeah.
that one off type joke that they placed in there, and they're gonna keep on doing that with certain Star Trek references. You know, these one off type jokes that you don't ever hear about them again. But you know,
Hmm.
like Mugado, you know, that was never explored again after the first TOS episode. So clearly they're going to
Right.
try to hit, you know, at least the major notes, if not some of the more minor or more uh, vague references. You know, certain things
Hmm.
here and there, or um, hell, I think I even saw a meme in this episode, this last episode, but I can't remember what it is now. So it seemed to me like, you know, they're now referencing pop culture things, and
Hmm.
you know, starting to insert some of those, something that you would have recognized because you were on the internet in the last 5 years, you know.
Yeah.
And you see something and it's like, oh my god, it's a thing, you know.
I'm waiting for the Picard face moment. They've got to write it in there somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, like I said, we're flying through these, so we don't have that
Hmm.
much to do left. We're gonna finish season 2 next week, and then 10 episodes in season 3. So just a couple more weeks, and we'll be finished with Lower Decks and On the Prodigy. So,
Wow.
all right. Anything else before we wrap up
No,
here?
I think that's about it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Bye
See
bye.
ya.